Welcome to the Soulcery Podcast, your sacred space to delve into spiritual tools, topics, and practices that will illuminate your path of soul remembering and healing. I'm your host, Ligia Costa, a soul guide, alchemist, soul writing coach, and the creator of the Trust Pathway. I'm deeply grateful to have you here with me. Together, we will embark on a profound exploration of self-discovery and healing, unlocking the secrets that lie within. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Soulcery Podcast, where we explore sacred moments in life that hold the keys to our deepest transformations. And today I invite you to join me as we dive into a topic that is often misunderstood, but it's very significant on our spiritual journey, and is about the dark night of the soul. Many of us at some point in life will face a time when everything feels as though it's falling apart. We feel like there is a hole in the ground beneath our feet and we are just falling into it, and it's getting darker and darker and darker, and at some point we don't even see the light. It's a period of profound crisis where the soul cracks open and where we are left standing in the debris of what we once knew. And maybe it's after a great loss. Maybe it's a sudden illness or a relationship that shatters unexpectedly. And in those moments, the darkness that creeps in can feel very overwhelming, as if life as we knew no longer makes sense, and everything we once held dear becomes distant, a distant memory. This is the dark night of the soul. It's a time when we might no longer know who we are, what we want, or where we're going. We sort of question everything. We question our relationships, our faith, and even our very existence. And often, this time isn't something that we choose to go through. It can feel as though life itself, or the universe, if you like to think that way, is just pulling us into this abyss, this journey that we don't choose to go through, but we kind of have no other choice as well. And that is because it's part of our soul's contract. It's a moment woven into the fabric of our existence to push us towards something greater. Now, this concept of a dark night of the soul isn't new. If you research Asian myths and spiritual traditions across cultures, that was already something they used to talk about. And the core of these stories simply speaks to one thing: the detachment from how things used to be. Is a tearing away of what's familiar in order to reveal something deeper, something hidden beneath the surface of our daily lives. I personally see it as a purging, as a recalibration, if you like. It feels like the universe is just asking us to strip away everything we thought we knew in order to challenge our beliefs, in order to challenge our values, and to make way for a new way of being. And this way of being is very raw, very real, in order to be unapologetically us. And as painful as it might feel, because it is, trust me, it's very painful, there's also a gift there. And that gift is personal to each one of us, but when we understand it, transforms this period of despair into a doorway for growth and for awakening. But the reality is, when we are in the muck there, when we are in this dark night of the soul and we feel hopeless and lost and our soul cracked open and there is nothing there. There's literally nothing there. I remember when I went through my dark night of the soul was after I lost my dad. And not only was I going through a process of grieving for my dad, things unfolded as well after he passed, things that came to the surface, and also relationships in my life just basically started to tear apart, mainly with my sister and my mother. And that feeling of losing, in a way, both parents and even blood relationships just drove me this darkness where I no longer knew who I was, and I had to go very, very deep. And again, it's not something that we choose to go through, and trust me, I wouldn't choose to go through that whilst I was already grieving, because that's already painful enough. But then it just happened, and I went through a long period of introspection, of pure sadness, and I was lost. I didn't know who I was anymore. Who I was without a father, who I was without a mother, who I was when some things in my life that I thought were truth were no longer real, and I had no way of knowing any better, no way of questioning to the people involved. And yeah, it was really, really difficult. Some people didn't understand it. So then you have those relationships in your life that they don't understand what you're going through and basically start guilt tripping you for becoming distant. And that adds up then to the fact that you don't know who you are, what you want in your life, what matters, what doesn't. It's really rough. And when we are in this process, we often don't see it as a gift because we often feel confused. We even feel ashamed for feeling so lost. And it's not uncommon to suppress these feelings and to reach out for distractions, for medications, or anything that will dull the pain. I certainly did this. I went through a period where alcohol was something to numb my pain, and I'm not proud of it, but it's part of my story. And I knew at the time that I was trying to numb the pain, but I was feeling so shit, excuse my French, that I didn't even care about it. And the truth is, we are conditioned to these moments of vulnerability as something to be fixed, something that's broken in us. And that adds up to the guilt, because then we feel guilty of being so broken, and we feel this pressure that we somehow need to fix this situation, but we have no willingness to do it. We have no energy, no strength to do it. We don't even know how to do it because we are feeling so confused and so lost. And then this conditioning just makes everything feel worse. But if we at some point are able to see that these feelings are not something to be feared or repressed, but something to be embraced, that can change everything. Another thing to understand is that the dark night of the soul is not something to rush. It's not a phase that can be hurried, because it will take its own time. It can be weeks, it can be months, it can be years. And the more you resist it, the longer it will take. But if we surrender to it, when we allow ourselves to sit with the discomfort, something very profound happens. And somehow, someday, we begin to transform. It's like we are this caterpillar in a cocoon, hidden away in the darkness, quietly shedding what no longer serves us, healing, just evolving. And when the time is right, we emerge. But we do not emerge as we were. We emerge as something new, something truer to the sense of who we are. Because all of these questionings that we go through when we are so confused and lost and we start questioning who we are, what we want, what matters, what doesn't, what is our beliefs, what we want in our lives, what we are not available for anymore, what we want more of. When we go through all these very deep questions, it's impossible to come out from that process of introspection the same person. You just can't. You just can't. But you also do not become something different. You just remember the person that you were always been. And yes, it's a process that it's dark and it might feel isolating. For me it was. But it is in that very darkness that the soul begins to heal, to renew, and to align itself with a more authentic path. And as we grow spiritually, we find that the life around us changes too. You know, people, places, habits, things that once seemed to fit no longer do. And that's the beauty of it. And it feels like the external world can no longer contain the person that we are remembering. It's a very deep process. And it's not pretty, but it's not meant to be pretty as well. And if you're blessed to go through something like this in life, you will know when you come out of it how blessed you were to go through something like this. Because it just changes everything. Your perspective of you and your life changes. And for the best. It changes for the best because all of a sudden you stop being open to things that are not good for you. You start seeing your value, how worthy you are. And for instance, implementing boundaries, healthy boundaries, is not as hard as it once was. And you feel like you don't buy into fear-mongering or guilt-tripping or victimization, blaming, or even materialistic things. You just, your perspective of life changes massively. And so you might think, what are the gifts of this process then? What lies on the other side of this dark night of the soul? And the answer is clarity. A clarity that's so deep that cuts through the noise and simply reveals what is important. It offers us the space to ask ourselves, perhaps for the first time in our lives, real questions. Maybe questions that we've asked 1,000 times before, but not with the depth of our own soul. Maybe you ask yourself before, why am I here? What is my purpose in this life? What does my soul long for? But you ask in a very surface level way. Maybe not with true intention to know why. But when you go through the dark night of the soul and organically you start asking these questions because it's basically part of the process, you do it from such a deep place in your soul that this time you are ready to listen. Really ready to listen. And another gift, and perhaps the most precious of all, is the freedom that comes from it. The freedom from the stories that you've been carrying, the freedom from the expectations, from the past, from the roles you have outgrown. And as we let go of what no longer serves us, of what doesn't make us happy, of what we are not available for, we step into a new chapter in our lives that's not led by fear, but by the truth of who we are at our core essence. And we are able to recognize the part that we play in this huge universe that we live in. And in doing so, we set ourselves free. So how do we work with this process? How do we embrace the dark night of the soul and allow it to be this alchemized experience that is meant to be? And my simple advice is to not be afraid of it. Trust the process. Trust that this moment is here to help you rediscover your true calling, to strip away the illusions that have kept you from living the life your soul intended. Just trust that you are in the right path. Trust in the process. Trust that your soul chose to go through this because it's meant to be for your highest good. Because that was a contract that your soul made for this journey. So trust in the timing of it all. And also surrender. Okay, allow yourself to be vulnerable, to let go of the need for control, the need to fix what you perceive to be broken. Stop resisting it. Just live moment by moment. You don't need to have grand plans right now. You don't need to plan your whole life right now. Just simply be and let your soul guide the way. Because it is in the surrender, in the acceptance of this journey, that you'll find the magic and the wonder that can only come from living a soul-led life. Before I love you and leave you, I will pull a card from my Trust journaling deck. And the card I pulled is from the Truth Suite, and the soul inquiry is, who am I when I'm fully, completely, divinely me? Who am I when I'm fully, completely, divinely me? And the affirmation is, I make a difference in the world by simply existing. How powerful is this? I would like to invite you to journal on this soul inquiry and see what comes through. Because it's one of those soul inquiries that takes us into this quest of self-growth, of self-knowing, and also self-healing. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today and for allowing me to be part of your journey. And if you're walking through the dark night of the soul right now, please know that you're not alone. And this moment is not your end. I know it might feel like it. I know it might feel like you have no way out. But it will be. It's not the end. It's just a sacred chapter that will lead you to a deeper and more authentic way of being. So trust in it. And most importantly, trust in yourself. If you'd like to get your hands in my Trust journaling deck and gift it to yourself or to a loved one this Christmas, it has a complimentary journaling workshop so you can work through your core limiting beliefs and how to start journaling to find yourself. This complimentary workshop is free. I have just a few of these in stock and I can post it straight away to be ready for you in time for Christmas. Just head to my website www.ligiacosta.co.uk, click on the shop tab and you'll find the deck there, or you can go into the show notes of this episode and click the link that I'll leave in there. Thank you so much for listening and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to the Soulcery Podcast and for holding space for this conversation. It is truly magical to be able to walk with you on this journey of soul healing and inner transformation. If you resonated with this episode and found it valuable, I would be grateful if you could leave a review on iTunes. Your feedback helps me reach more souls searching for guidance and healing. For more guidance and soul wisdom to support soul awakening women through the journey of alchemy, please visit my website www.ligiacosta.co.uk. Love and healing to all. See you on the next one.